Today I'm in Harwich and this is the statue dedicated to all the children in Kindertransport.
In 1933, the Nazi Party, led by Adolf Hitler, came to power in Germany. With this came the persecution of the Jewish people. They introduced legislation to deny Jews freedom and strip them of their rights. They also formed campaigns of incitement, abuse, terror, and violence towards the Jews. The Nazi Party had just one goal: to make the Jews leave Germany. But why? Germany lost World War I in 1918 and they had to pay a lot of compensation money to other countries. Germany was struggling. Many people were poor and there weren't enough jobs. People wanted change and hoped the Nazi Party would bring about that change. However, the Nazi Party was racist. They believed that they were the pure race. They believed that Jews, Gypsies, black people, and other ethnic groups were inferior to them. They also believed that Germany was a better country than others, and their people's superiority meant that they could and should dominate other people. The Nazi Party blamed the Jewish people for losing World War I, stating that they were cowards and defeatists and that they allowed the war to be lost. People believed at this speech and voted the Nazi Party into government. On March 22nd, 1933, the first concentration camp was opened. At the time, it was used for political prisoners. However, over time, more than 40,000 concentration camps for forced labor and transit would be built, as well as 6 death camps. Their purpose was to carry out genocide using gas chambers. During 1933 and 1939, the Nazi Party initiated over 400 regulations that affected the Jewish public and private lives. On April 1st, 1933, a general boycott against German Jews was declared, in which SS members stood outside Jewish-owned stores and businesses in order to prevent customers from entering. 1 week later, they passed a law that banished Jews from the civil service, court system, public medicine, and the German army. In May 1933, public book burnings took place throughout Germany. Many books were burnt because their authors were Jewish. In September 1935, the Nuremberg laws were passed, stripping the Jews of their citizenships and their right to vote. The laws banned them from marrying non-Jews. They were banned from universities. Jewish actors were dismissed from their theatres. Jewish authors' works were rejected by publishers, and Jewish journalists were hard-pressed to find newspapers that would publish their writings. Many Jewish people decided to leave Germany as the hostilities increased. However, many countries limited the number of Jewish refugees they would take in, and the process was slow due to the mountain of paperwork that had to be done. On October 5th, 1938, Jewish passports were marked with the big letter J for Jew. This was on the request of Switzerland, as they wanted to restrict Jews from emigrating to Switzerland. Another law in 1938 required Jews who did not have a typical Jewish name to add one. Men were forced to add the name Israel and women Sarah, so that they would be easily recognized as Jews. On October 27, 1938, the Nazis evicted 17,000 Polish Jews that were living in Germany. However, Poland refused to admit them, and 8,000 were stranded on the Polish border. On the 9th and 10th of November 1938, the Nazis went even further. They organized a night of vandalism, violence, and persecution that many have since described as the beginning of Holocaust. 91 Jews were murdered, 1,400 synagogues across Germany and Austria were torched, and Jewish-owned shops and businesses were plunged and destroyed. In addition, the Jews were forced to pay compensation for the damage that had been caused, and approximately 30,000 Jews were arrested and sent to concentration camps. The night became known as Kristallnacht, the night of the broken glass, so called because of the smashed glass which covered the streets from the shops which were looted. In response to this night of violence, the British government organised a rescue programme in order to bring as many Jewish children to England from the Nazi-occupied countries. This was known as Kindertransport. However, parents and adults were not allowed to go with the children. Kindertransport ran between November 1938 and September 1939, and 10,000 children were brought into England. Can you imagine how these children felt, having to leave their home, their family, and go to an unknown place, not knowing what was waiting for them or if they would ever see their family and friends again? The children were placed in British foster homes, hostels, schools, and farms. Most of these homes were non-Jewish and had little knowledge of the Jewish faith. The main identity of these children. Many of the children didn't speak English, so they had to learn a new language and a new way of life. The first Kindertransport left Berlin on the 1st of December 1938 and arrived in Harwich, England on the 2nd of December 1938. It brought 200 children from the Jewish orphanage in Berlin, which had been destroyed in the Kristallnacht. On the way over the German-Dutch border, the train carrying the children was boarded by the SS members who went through the children's luggage. The children were scared and cried. Orphans, homeless children, and the children of people in concentration camps were given priority on the transport. The first Kindertransport from Vienna left on the 10th of December. In March 1939, after the German army entered Czechoslovakia, transports from Prague were quickly organized. Trains of expelled German Jewish children in Poland were also arranged between February and August 1939. The journey was long and exhausting. The children boarded the train and were given a warm welcome and hot chocolate. Then they boarded a ferry from the Hook of Holland to Hartwich. After this, they travelled by train from Hartwich to Liverpool Street train station in London. Once at Liverpool Street, foster families came to collect them. Not all children found homes immediately. Many went to Dover Court refugee camp where they were housed until further arrangements could be made. However, over the months, the fear of German invasion grew in Britain, and Parliament passed legislation for the internment of refugees thought to be pro-Nazis. Suspected pro-Nazis included teenage members of the Kindertransport. They were incarcerated on the Isle of Man or sent to Canada or Australia. About 1,000 children from the Kindertransport were classified as pro-Nazis despite the fact that they were Jewish and their lives were under threat. The last group of children from Germany left on the 1st of September 1939, the day the German army invaded Poland and provoked Great Britain, France and other countries to declare war. The last known Kindertransport from the Netherlands left on the 14th of May 1940, the day the Dutch army surrendered to Germany. While these children were safe, the persecution of the Jews continued to accelerate. By November the 15th, 1938, all Jewish pupils were expelled from German schools. On the 15th of March 1939, Germany occupied Czechoslovakia, and then on the 1st of September 1939, Germany invaded Poland. This move caused Britain to declare war on Germany. In October 1939, Germany deported Austrian and Czech Jews to Poland, and they were put in the ghetto. Conditions in the ghettos were very bad, and many lost their lives as a result of disease and starvation. Shortly afterwards, all Jews were forced to wear an armband or yellow star. During 1940, Germany continued to invade and occupy other countries like Denmark, Netherlands, Belgium, Luxembourg and France. In 1941, the situation grew even worse for the Jews. While Germany invaded and occupied Yugoslavia and Greece, thousands upon thousands of Jews were being murdered in Romania and Ukraine. In 1942, millions of Jews were being deported to concentration camps and murdered in death camps. Germany continued to reign terror over Jewish people and continued to invade and occupy countries. In 1944, it occupied Hungary and deported 380,000 Hungarian Jews to Auschwitz to be murdered. When the Allies began to close in on Germany in late 1944 and early 1945, the Nazis forced the surviving prisoners on long marches to camps believed to be out of the way of the advancing enemy. Hundreds of thousands more died of exposure, violence and starvation on these death marches. By May 1945, the war was over. Germany had lost and Hitler was dead. The Allied soldiers that liberated the concentration camps saw firsthand the atrocities that the Jewish people suffered. Reports from Auschwitz said that the soldiers found 7,500 emaciated prisoners alive and over 600 corpses. They also found mountains of eyeglasses and shoes. 370,000 men's suits, 837,000 women's garments, and 7.7 tons of human hair. Although thousands of Jews still died of malnutrition and diseases, many people were so malnourished that their bodies could not cope with the food they were given. After the war ended, many of the Kindertransport children stayed in Britain or emigrated to the newly formed state of Israel, America, Canada, or Australia. Most of the children had been orphaned since leaving their homes, losing their family in the ghettos or the camps they had escaped.
In September 2022, Hartwich revealed this memorial to the Kindertransport. This memorial is connected to 5 other sculptures across Europe, creating an international memorial work. These sculptures show the moment when the children were uprooted from their home country and transported to foreign lands.
By the end of the Holocaust, over 1.1 million people were murdered at Auschwitz. Over 90% of them were Jewish. However, in total 6 million Jewish men, women and children have been murdered in ghettos, mass shootings in concentration camps and extermination camps. At least another 5 million people were murdered because they were gypsies, disabled, homosexual, Jehovah, Soviet prisoner of war, or political prisoner. The Holocaust threatened the very fabric of civilization, and genocide must be resisted. Our world often feels fragile and vulnerable, but we cannot be complacent. Prejudice and hatred must be challenged by all of us.